Okay, on a count of 3, 2, 1,
Such a good
smile,
smile.
expressions.
Okay,
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa
Welcome to
alaikum
the new
assalam.
episode of Unlock. We call it Unlock Your Potential. Perfect time for the self-reflection and to think about all those out-of-the-box creative ideas that we have been ignoring in all those times. And this is indeed a blessing in disguise for us also in terms of thinking creatively. And we have started this program, we call it Unlock, whereby we have our regular panelist, Mr. Neville Gone from UK, the global chairman of YP2G, and Mr. Kamran Rizvi, the founder and CEO of Cornelian. And today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Moonis Rehman, who's the founder of Pakistan's largest recruitment portal, Rozee.pk. And I really appreciate that he has taken a time and given us his consent, and in fact appeared on a very short notice. So we really appreciate that, Mr. Rehman. Not sure what happened, so he disappeared, but I hope it's still there. So let me give a quick introduction about Mr. Rehman. Mr. Rehman is a Pakistani internet entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and a businessman. He's the co-founder and executive chairman of Naseeb Networks Incorporation, a business-oriented social network used primarily for online job recruiting. Mr. Rehman has been listed among the top entrepreneurs of 21st century several times. So, Mr. Rehman, let me start quickly on a personal introduction question that this 21st century top entrepreneur, this is globally we're talking about, right?
I think all of that is really highly inflated. So please ignore everything you just heard. I think all of us are trying to make a difference in our own way, and I'm doing my part. And people tend to write things that just really go over the top. So.
No, that just popped up in my mind, so I asked. I hope you didn't mind. But let me jump straight and ask my first question, Mr. Rehman. The purpose is also to address the corporates, the employers, and even the job seekers to learn about how the future recruitment, especially after post-Corona, COVID-19, it's going to be. And my first question would be related to how do you see, in particularly, especially when we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is playing a very key role in HR and recruitment down the road. So what sort of how do you perceive how it's going to be? I mean, how job seekers should be ready, how employers should be ready in terms of embracing such a major change?
Yeah, look, we've been using AI for our matching engine for a while now, and our AI algorithms getting stronger and stronger as AI evolved globally. There are lots of fantastic open source tools and libraries that you can use. You don't have to create AI from scratch. So we're able to do a better job in notifying the right people at the right time of jobs. So that's an ongoing trend I think you're seeing globally, and that will keep going. In terms of a disruption that's causing, what that does is it really allows people to save time and to get more meaningful jobs to them, and employers to, in an easier way, in a faster, more efficient way, get the right jobs to the right individual. How disruptive is that for our job seekers in the Pakistani context? What happened of how behavior, how business, how economics, how social interaction is going to change. The world has really changed forever, and it has a profound implication on job seekers. If you're unemployed and recently available, you can click a button and
I think we seem to have lost him.
Yeah, we're having a little technical glitch as Moonis has.
Well, I'm sure he'll be back in shortly. I mean, the other thing, let's expand the AI issue. There's a myth, and I'm going to say it's a myth, that AI is going to take away jobs. What AI is doing, as we're already seeing in the West, is it's adding to jobs. But these jobs are coming in at a very different level now. So as Moonis was saying, a lot of the boring jobs, I suppose, the day-to-day jobs are being taken away, but the more productive, the more thinking type roles are coming in, which requires a different skill set.
Yeah.
Apologies,
Hey,
I
we
got
you
knocked
back.
off.
Where's you're back, so
We got you back.
This morning, and almost 800 people have now self-enrolled because they recently I think is fundamentally changing. It's undergoing a shift, and a massive shift. So the relationship between job seeker by professional to their employer or employment opportunities is, I think, going through a massive transition, a massive shift. And I think this is what people need to realize and focus on. I think these full-time employment opportunities that we have traditionally seen are going to start receding, and work from home, which is a behavior, professional behavior that was a huge minority in the employment landscape in Pakistan, where very few employers were really embracing work from home. That's clearly changed. I think most employers are going to be very happy to allow employees to work from home because we've gotten used to it and it works. And while we've gotten used to doing that, there's so much amazing talent on the bench in the job market. And I think employers are going to graduate towards temporary contractual employment, freelancing. And this is a massive opportunity for our professionals as well as employers, because that's where the economics are going. But we have the fourth largest group of freelancers globally in the world, but they're mainly servicing organizations abroad. They don't like to service employers inside the country because they don't think that they'll get paid and that the employers are going to be fair with them. But that's going to all evolve, and I think there are going to be instances where local freelancers are going to make a lot more money than they made as employees of companies, because they'll get smaller gigs more frequently. Everybody wins.
Yeah, it's true. The gig economy, because I'm 6,000 miles to the west of you, so the gig economy has been here for the last 10 years. And definitely, you know, one of the places that freelancers has grown immensely over the last 4 or 5 years is certainly Pakistan towards the east. You know, Kazakhstan is massive with regards to the freelance community. Eastern Europeans have come on as freelancers because, again, they can offer things, software as a service, typically, the SaaS arena. They can offer those at very, very, I won't call them cheap, but very productive rates for the UK market. And it's not just the UK, but it's, you know, another 5,000 miles further west, and there's a 360 million population over there called the US.
That's right.
Which is drawing, and of course, you know, Pakistan is perfectly positioned for that because there's lots of links between Canada, Pakistan, the US, and Pakistan. So yeah, the audience is huge. One thing I would say though, while we lost you, is that a lot of people are saying that AI is going to take jobs away. The answer is it will take the menial jobs away. It is actually adding to the job base as we're currently seeing it. But people need to be more technically focused. And again, these soft skills come into play as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good opportunity now. And I think what you'll see in your platform, Moonis, is that people will be more productive and more active on it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the case. And congratulations on bringing those 700 people
AI
already.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand it properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet we're hoping we'll be able to have them assimilated. These are just people who've registered and indicated that they're looking for jobs. And I think this unemployment context of Pakistan is going to escalate very, very quickly during April and during May. Our companies don't have holding power and cash flows. I think one thing important to understand is employees and professionals feel very shortchanged when they get laid off because the employer can't afford to keep them on the payroll, and there's a feeling of injustice. You know, how could you do this to me in my time of need? And emotionally, I think it's a very rough patch. And there needs to be a lot of empathy with a situation of a professional who's lost income, who has a family to feed, rent to pay. And I think at the same time, professionals need to understand the bigger picture of the economy. If an employer doesn't have money coming in, that employer simply doesn't have money to pay salaries. So in a lot of cases, it's not a matter of the employer being cruel. It's a matter of the employer just not having resources to be able to pay employees. So a lot of that kind of anger and, this is something we need to navigate on both sides of the fence. It's really a tough problem.
Kamran bhai, please, by all means.
I think what Moonis has said must resonate with the dozen who have actually joined us right now. And of course, those who will be listening to the recording. I feel that employers have absolute right to shed some, payload in terms of surviving and keeping the ship afloat. But at the same time, Moonis, my question to you would be that what can employers do to deal with this very challenging reality in a more compassionate way? And I think, Neville, I would like your comment after Moonis's, because I feel that, helping those who have served the organization for so many years, and of course, understandably having to let go of them, surely an organization has a moral responsibility to facilitate this transition and help them redeploy themselves, reskill, and come through as a freelancer, as an entrepreneur, as an outsourced partner, or whatever. So, Moonis, is there any trend in this regard? And after you've shared your piece, then I would like Neville also to comment on what can organizations do where they can mitigate the very painful reality for a lot of people.
That's a great question, Kamran. I think there are actually two pieces here. One is the emotional side, and I'm going to talk about the emotional side because I think it's very, very important. It has a disproportionate impact on the happiness of individuals, and so I would say 80% of the battle is really that emotional kind of a battle to get past and beyond kind of the trauma of being laid off at a very tough time. And then there's a very pragmatic and practical part, getting those people back into jobs. We have very large clients who are working with us, and as they downsize because they have to, they work with us to help to have the Rozee team, as an example, help with their employees to get them back into the job market by helping them with CVs, the counseling, advisory on which skills are hot and how to acquire those skills, and which pieces of the market are actually hiring. So employers can certainly promote other resources for employees to guide them on ways to get back into the job market. Employers should be extremely transparent with the job seekers and let them know exactly what's going on, to let them know what kind of cash and how they are reducing expenses to keep the maximum number of people fed. And to cut, if not take no salaries, because they have more holding power. So this extreme transparency, this empathy, and whatever right out the period is critical. And I think all our organizations for the next 2 months, their purpose has changed. Their purpose is no longer to serve the customers or to rule the world. Their purpose is simply to keep their employees fed. That is the purpose of organizations for the next 2 months. And whatever needs to happen to make that happen should happen. Employees should know that. There should be extreme transparency. So the pain of the employer is felt by the employee too. These are decisions that are very tough. Nobody likes to lay off people, but the moment you find out that you've been laid off, it's traumatic. There's a lot of anger, and that just exacerbates. So that emotional side is super important. Practical side, I think people need to realize what's going on. And if you are in a job that has a skill set that's widely available, then have to recognize that in a world where unemployment increases substantially, it will be harder to make a living. And AI and automation, certainly a lot of automation is starting to take place even now. I don't know if I would call it AI, but people are finding ways to cut expenses of back office jobs like support jobs, approving things and profiles and kind of data entry. These are the routine tasks where employers may have been lazy in accelerating that. Well, certainly they're going to accelerate trying to cut headcount and cost because they simply don't have the money. But these are the individuals who transition to those roles that are highly in demand, and there are lots of them. And I think employers should guide them on what those skill sets are. Online training courses have Udemy's skills, even if you have no experience in them, for a very small amount of money. Marketing, online marketing, Android programming, data analytics, artificial intelligence. So there are lots of allied areas to existing professions that can be self-taught and learned to hop back in the job market. And when you combine them with a freelance,
Oh yeah, having a little audio glitch from on his side.
Yeah.
it resonates because he's trying to save cost. I can hire a person on my kind of payroll, or what I can do is I can hire somebody for 3 days or 4 days to make the video for me and pay them 50,000 rupees, even though my full-time employee who did that made 80,000 rupees. So embracing these opportunities are going to be very, very critical as the landscape evolves for jobs.
Interesting. And Neville, I mean, your thoughts on this, because I have a feeling that where you are, it is to re-equip and prepare and get people to a level where they can add value to organizations and society in general. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean,
in the UK.
Well, I mean, what we've seen is a catastrophic disaster globally. So what we might see from time to time, I mean, I come from the oil industry, and if you've seen over the last few weeks, the oil industry price has gone down to like $20 a barrel. Just over a year ago, it was $120 a barrel. And those were catastrophic events that would happen in the oil and gas industry from time to time. And everyone said, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just going to get cheaper gas, or the gas is going to be more expensive. But we've had this catastrophic event that's hit every single company. No matter who you are, where you are in the world, your organization has been hit. So the first accountant's answer to this is cut costs, at all costs, cut costs. We need to survive. What you then need is the rest of the board saying, yes, we need to cut what we can, but actually our best assets are our people. Not bricks and mortar, not patents, patents or whatever you want to call them, whichever your dialect is. Our best asset is our people. And the empathy, the real leadership here is a stark reminder of what the good things that are happening in the world and the not very good things. Let me give you an example. In the UK, the government has given parachutes to all companies. So if you're an income generating company, like an online, a household name on the retail arena, a restaurant, hotel, you've got no income. There's absolutely no income coming through because we've shut down. We are physical distancing. I'm not too sure I understand this social distancing term, because we're not socially distancing here. We're actually socially compacting, but we're physically distancing. And the government have given what they call a furlough opportunity. So they'll pay 80% of these organisations' salaries for 3 months. So that's a massive parachute. And in real terms, that's probably going to cost the UK economy 40 to 50 billion pounds. I don't want to convert it into rupees because frankly we haven't got the time. But that we're talking billions of rupees here as a cushion.
I don't think we have a number that large in rupees, even if you tried.
No. So consequently,
Gentlemen, we have yeah, sorry, no, but just taking further what you've said as employee, as an asset, we have an interesting question popped up from Ms. Kamal Shahzadi. And by the way, audience, you can always raise your hand if you want to speak to any of the panelists, distinguished panelists. So please raise your hand and I shall happily unmute your microphone so you can speak. But let me read this question from Ms. Shahzadi. Hi, my name is Kamal. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm looking a huge number of employees being laid off, starting from labor to C-level management in various industries. Do you think State Bank of Pakistan's refinance scheme can provoke these industries to keep the employees on payroll, keeping in view the fact that they don't have sufficient production orders? Also, which option is best in current scenario, to keep more employees on payroll with a huge cut to their salaries, or right size a lot of employees and pay in full to the rest? Interesting question.
There's no easy answer to this.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I know how to answer it, but it's not an answer that I think anybody's going to like.
No.
Unfortunately. And so if you allow me, I'd like to respond
Please,
to that.
please speak your heart.
I think the sad reality is that economics have changed. The way business is conducted has changed. Organizations are going to have to reinvent themselves. There's a new reality, and a substantial number of the jobs that are going to be lost or that have been lost are, I'm very sorry to say, are never going to come back. And this is something that we should reconcile with. And despite the efforts of State Bank, which are very commendable, organizations, as they reinvent themselves, they're going to realize that there's certain things that they were doing before that don't make sense any longer, and they will not do those things anymore. So even if they are able to keep employees on the payroll for 3 months via a loan, which is an accrued liability that they're going to have to eventually pay off, it's not free money. And as they get into debt and their sales slow down, income slows down, it becomes harder and harder to get out of that debt. So a lot of organizations are going to hesitate to incur the debt in the first place because they're already in trouble and they're already going to see a very steep reduction in sales and revenue, and now they have to carry this loan on their back. The other thing is that although State Bank has put in a very good kind of framework in place, ultimately the banks are the ones who need to approve those loans. And these loans are not attractive to banks because they're high risk. And in addition to being high risk, the banks are getting a very small margin on these loans. So they're taking increased risk for a very small fee for those loans. So many banks will not be issuing those loans. And if they do, they'll probably issue those loans to companies that don't really need them. And the companies who do probably won't qualify for them. And even the companies who do qualify, the banks are going to be hesitant to actually issue those loans because they're not profitable and they're a big headache. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think that a lot of the jobs that are going to be lost in the economy will not reemerge, and those people need to find other professions or other ways to create incomes for themselves.
Cameron, you want to jump in there?
Yes, I just thought I'll add what Neville was saying, the parachute that the British government has offered. Is this parachute in the form of a loan, or is it a one-time payment just to sustain the economy and it's written off after the period lapses?
Yeah, like anything else, there's a mixed bag. The primary parachute is it's a one-off gift. So it's not a loan. And really, from a macroeconomic point of view, the government really does not want to see mass redundancies. Right. Because the worst thing we can come from here is an economy that, let's face it, was coming out of Brexit. We were being criticised heavily for it. The other world leaders have come up with similar sized parachutes. And the last thing any individual economy needs to do is to put pressure not just on income, but we're now talking about the emotional impact here. So,
Yeah.
you know, when what I've found very, very heavily over the last 3 weeks. I mean, I have 5 children, and each are most of them got partners or friends in the same flat, and their employers have suddenly come to the conclusion or realization is that they're not hiring a person, they're hiring a real person that has a real life.
Wow.
So
Wow.
as we're seeing into each of our own homes here.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
on the internet where people have seen, you know, certain funny things that have been going on Zoom and the like. But we are seeing into our own homes. I mean, none of us at the office. We're all, you know, I've got my own study, which, you know, I'm lucky to have, I suppose. And it's bespoke for me. So I've got my workspace, but the majority of people that are now working from home haven't got their workspace. They're on the dining room table. Their partner is on the other end of the dining room table. If they've got kids, they're also on the dining room table, dialing into school and using very narrow broadband for all sorts of reasons. So, as I say, employers are now realizing that not only people are their best asset, but they're not individuals. They actually come with a family. And as Cameron knows too well, because we've discussed this many, many times, when you know your team, you know what motivates them.
Yeah.
You know, one may be send flowers home for this person's wife because I'm taking far too much time of this person being in the office. That's a monetary value to the organization, but it's a real small monetary value, but it means so much to that person and the family. So I think this is forcing empathy. I never thought I'd ever put those two words together, really. But we're forcing some really good leadership styles. And we're seeing evidence of good examples, particularly bad examples. But, you know, that's the way the world goes around.
And
That's a great...
And my comment was also around what Moonis said, and I'm so glad he was very straightforward. It is not looking good, particularly if you have a lens which says things will get better, it's only a question of a month or two. It isn't a question of a month or two. It is a long haul. We're right now, I see it, my perspective tells me we are heading down. And when we stabilize and hit the floor, it's going to take us a few years to recover. And taking on the burden of a loan, as Moonis has said, I think would actually kill the company because it would not have the capacity to repay. And as a result, further damage could be done. So my question then to Moonis and to Neville and Ali, in fact, who's a king of the technical world. And I'm so grateful that we have such people in our lives, Moonis, Ali, Jaffrey, and others who make things happen on the internet. Is there a need for a drastic lifestyle change? The old paradigms are redundant. And if we are talking of a drastic lifestyle change, maybe the prospect of survival is there. But my question is, what would that look like? Moonis.
You know, in terms of lifestyle change, I'll try to stitch together a few of these thoughts. First of all, you know, it's ironic that when we all work from home and use the internet to talk to each other, we're all actually getting closer together than when we sit across the table in the office. And you're absolutely right. You know, we have 400 or so employees across the various organizations, and I'm seeing their homes, I'm seeing their houses, I'm seeing their wives and their kids and where they live and how they interact with their environment. And yes, you're right. It creates forced empathy. So we've all gotten closer as a team where we're able to now zap into a window in each other's home at any time, you know, in the day. And in terms of the lifestyle implications, I think this work from home, working remotely, this is definitely a lifestyle change that we've just accelerated. Everybody has accelerated into learning how to work from home effectively and efficiently. And I think every day we improve in terms of how we handle it. So there's certainly a lifestyle change there. You know, how our days are now blending into our nights and our weekends are blending into our weekdays. And we are more on than we were in the past, because you can complete that work assignment afterwards, or you can have a break in the middle of the day to spend an hour with your child on their homework. So there's definitely a massive lifestyle implication. What that looks like after this is very, very hard to foresee. I really can't say how it's going to look after things calm down. But I think one thing for sure is that things have changed, and they will continue to change, and we need to respond very quickly to those changes.
Very interesting. Neville, what do you think, in addition to what Moonis has said about drastic lifestyle change, what else do you think it would involve? And Ali, I'd like your thoughts on this too. You can't just moderate and stay away from the conversation.
There's no hiding place in this conversation.
Yeah.
There is this term, which I'm sure you gentlemen have been aware of, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
Initiated in 2017, there are 17 of them, and if you look at SDGs, they always come with this tagline of 2030. What we've seen recently is that, without exception, all of those SDGs are being at the topless level, at the front line. Everyone's talking about them, even if they're not talking about the term SDGs. And when you actually start to look at each and every one of those, I'm sure the four of us here would agree with it. If we were to run an organization based upon these sustainable development goals, that we would incorporate them into our daily office or business arena, because they're common sense, frankly. Everyone should have the best education, free if possible. Everyone should have access to care and welfare. So in other words, we need to be healthy, get exercise, the environment, take care of the environment. Well, what's happened over the last 3 weeks? Because people haven't been traveling to work, all of the smog has literally disappeared. I mean, I live on the outskirts of London. We can't hear, airplanes used to come over at the top of my house. We would hear trains in the background, hardly ever. And if the wind's in the right direction, it would be like a storm coming in through the window, when the A2, which is literally 300 yards away from my home, it would be full of cars. Thousands of cars every single day. Well, they've gone. So I in some respects, I hope we never go back there, because we have managed to work from home in this arena. It has, as I say, it's forced empathy, which is number one as far as I'm concerned on leadership. So we've understood what makes our people tick. And I'm sure in time they will be more productive, because you're more appreciative of who they are and what they're doing. So will we return? What's gone down is the cost of the operation, the fixed cost, the office cost. Manufacturers can't get away from that, because they actually need to manufacture. Farming can't get away from it. So there's lots of industries that will never divorce itself from being physically located. But even today, I heard on the TV that the Sizewell nuclear plant that we've got here has gone on to skeleton staff. So they've split the staff. They haven't reduced staff, but what they've recognised is, we're going to split the staff. So rather than have them all in at the same time and have a skeleton maintenance that comes in when people are sick, the likelihood is we're going to have more people sick. So we're going to have a rotation going on, which again it's the way they've decided to do business going forward. They also said it's an opportunity to get HSE freelancers to come in and give them better advice. And they've not increased cost. Equally, they've not cut cost. And all of the people that were on the TV were saying it was great to work from home. As you said, Moonis, they can take an hour out of their day, work with their child rather than when I came home, it was 8, 9 o'clock at night and all the children were in bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the professionals, I think it's improving their life immensely. But again, you've got to take advantage. You've got to have that feeling, have that resilience within you to say things will get better. I don't know when they're going to get better, but they will get better, and I'm going to be in the right position at the right time to take advantage of it. Cameron.
So, Ali, I want to come to you and Moonis, you as well, because both of you are, in a sense, at the most needed hour, capable and aware of certain realities. And my fear is that, 3 months ago, we never imagined a world where the airlines would be grounded. We never imagined a world where 188 countries, all schools would be shut. We never believed or imagined that transportation as we know it would be on a halt. Now, what we have is internet, which has taken over and has replaced and augmented these essentials that were previously known as essentials, has taken over and has become the critical backbone of human existence, without which we are on the farms. I don't imagine us being anywhere else. So how able is the current infrastructure to deal with this quantum leap in traffic, number one? Quantum leap in traffic. I mean, whew, everyone is at it. Number two, should anything go wrong, what backups do we have? And this is not a local issue, this is global. And both Ali, you and Moonis at this point amongst us are perhaps the most capable and most aware. Please give us some, because imagine minus internet where we go. I mean, then we are in the agrarian times. So please shed some light on this, Ali, and then Moonis.
Well, Kamran bhai, very valid question. While you were just asking this question, I'm equally while streaming, and I'm concerned about my bandwidth crunch, the technical glitches, because it's a live streaming, and I'm curious about the quality of the streaming that we are projecting right now. So obviously there are valid concerns. As we were discussing earlier, apparently the surge in internet traffic has gone up to 25%, which I was just reading somewhere. Netflix has brought down their quality without compromising, apparently, to 30% something. So all those talks that you're saying and concerns are already there. And yes, I think it's more about planning, all about planning, your backup planning, your contingency planning. One thing which, again, from the internet cloud-based computing, I was just talking to a few friends. They have immediately signed up on Microsoft Office monthly subscription on a very low down, cutting down their own, home-based or database, huge database structures, and just using these remote cloud servers to be accessible and access their documents from anywhere in the world right now. So yes, people have already started planning about it, how to remain accessible, how to remain actively engaged online and be available. So I would say more planning is required, definitely. I mean, I'll pass on to Moonis. I know he's managing traffic of millions and millions of visitors every day. I'm sure he must be thinking about it also. But on a lighter note, let me just share a joke, Kamran bhai. It reminds me, back in 1999, I got married, and I don't know, but I claim to be the first Muslim couple whose wedding went live on internet in 1999. We had, my wife was totally amazed because I had, these typical movie cameras. They were coming with the video recorders, and I was actually streaming my wedding back in 1999 on internet. There was a virtual invitation. And so it's all about opportunities also, how you leverage upon these opportunities. And what happened with this wedding, you'll be surprised. Mick Jagger got the attention of my wedding, and Cricket Info approached me because cricket, Australia was visiting Pakistan, nobody was there. And, 10 Sport, no channels were there. And they they thought that I'm very well equipped with all these high gadgets, and they offered me if I could stream the Pakistan cricket match with Australia, and they were willing to pay me, and I got the right from PCB and PTV just because I was managed to think again, as Neville says, out of the box or never went to the box. But I got a lot of opportunities to speak about. So it all depends. How do you see? I mean, there are downtrends. I mean, in terms of bandwidth capacity, but equally a lot of opportunities will be coming on. People will start thinking how to utilize and leverage upon this quarantine times. Yes, over to you, Moonis.
Yeah.
Moonis,
So
yeah.
I mean, I think this. Oh, hang on. Hello, hear me? You hear me?
Yes, Moonis, you're a little bit breaking up, but yep.
Okay.
Let me turn on my webcam. Let's see if Moonis is on a better quality.
Okay. I'll just wait for that to subside.
Yeah, Moonis, we can
turn
hear
off
you, I guess.
my webcam and see if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now better. Moonis, we can hear you. You there?
No, I think he's going to reconnect.
Okay, guys, apologies for that.
Yeah.
Is that clearer?
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, and a great example of the problem.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is such an important question. I think it has ramifications that are going to be super enduring for probably the next 30, 40 years. I'll talk a little bit about the internet and the bandwidth. Yes, it's increasingly strategic. We are entering into possibly the fourth industrial revolution. And this is a pretty phenomenal change. And I don't think we are ready for this in terms of our skill set. You know, we talked about unemployment. We talked about jobs that I believe will never come back because we are entering into a revolutionary period. This is a revolution how we're going to change how we interact. And what's happening is everything is moving online. We're able to process payments and transactions. EasyPesa, JazzCash, all the wallet companies have reported a 350% increase in the number of people who are creating accounts to pay online and transfer money from the top of the pyramid all the way down. Organizations which are servicing online needs like Zoom's stock price has grown by well over 100% over the last 1 or 2 months. And so these are kind of what's going to happen in the future. The businesses of the future, organizations increasingly are going to be adopting online mediums to pay their employees, to manage their workflows, to manage interactions in between employees, a lot of automation. All of that is happening, and our workforce is not equipped to deal with that. You know, I'll tell you an example of, for example, the banks. Many banks are now exploring platforms where they can reduce the emphasis on the bank branch, which is the biggest asset of the bank, because it's expensive, it has huge OPEX, it has implications in terms of people being sick and infecting each other. And so all of this is happening. Internet bandwidth has been choked globally. It's been choked in Pakistan because the economics have changed. When you get a connection at home, you get a shared connection. Whatever bandwidth you're promised, it's with the assumption that you're not going to use it 24 hours a day. You're going to use it in certain amounts of time. So ISPs are like banks. If everybody withdraws their money at the same time, the bank goes out of business because they don't have that much in the bank to offer you, even though you're the one who has acquired it. So because we're all taking out our cash at the same time in terms of bandwidth, ISPs can't handle the load. The bandwidth is available though. Now the ISPs have to change their economics. They have to buy more. And that's what's happening now. So the bandwidth problem is improving, but the economics have changed because you're paying them less. So they're going to have to figure out how to charge you more for it. This is kind of the problem that's happening. But internet, online, smartphones, these are the tools of the future. And this is where businesses are going. Everybody's going to be interacting through these online mediums. The businesses are going to reinvent themselves so that they can cash in on this new wave. Our labor force also has to transition so they have the skills to be productive during this new wave, because in Pakistan, the vast majority of our labor pool is excluded from this wave. We're very last mile oriented. brick and mortar oriented. I've been talking to organizations who sell banana bread, who sell cheese from home. These are these small Facebook sellers. They've reported a surge in sales during this time. And not only have they seen a surge in sales, the number of people who are paying them online versus through COD, where a writer would come and you'd hand them cash, that used to be like 80, 85% of their sales. In this climate, they're getting 50% of their sales through online payments. What's changed in the last 2 weeks? The ecosystem was there, but people are now making more of an effort to learn these tools and to adopt to them. So this is a massive change that's happening in the way we sell and the way we buy and the way we interact with each other.
Thank you. My question is, there already has been a knowledge divide. Do you think that with this pandemic, we're going to also have a huge social consequence in terms of the technological divide and the masses being actually isolated from the others who are booming in the new wave? I mean, what is your take on that, Moonis?
No, I don't think it's going to increase that. I think it will probably reduce that, if anything, because the way we're sharing knowledge in the tech world is online. It's through, online learning tools, online mediums, online news blogs. We're interacting with people online on LinkedIn and making, connections. And when you're forced to rely more on these online mediums, more people get up to speed on how to use them, and the knowledge, I think, transfers faster. This knowledge has always transferred online. If you look at artificial intelligence and the professionals in the field of artificial intelligence, they have all learned their skill online through online courses because academic institutions didn't know how to teach AI. So all of that knowledge was acquired online anyway. Our kids are now in schools and they are interacting with their teachers online. So online education has boomed and it's forced us to do that. Ji Kamran bhai.
Yes, Kamran bhai.
Yeah, the question that is burning in my head is that when I listen to Moonis, when I listen to Neville and Ali, I find that you are having a very calm mind and you are thinking clearly and you are being able to see what's happening around and you're trying to analyze and come up with creative solutions. My question is that those who are under stress and in a highly pressurized environment, worrying about their future, what is it that you do, Neville, what is it that you do, Ali, what is it that you do to remain composed and calm enough to be able to deal with things as they come? What tips and techniques could you offer the listeners at this time? Ali, let's start with you.
Well, I guess my mentor Neville is there, but I will, in my humble opinion, I would say, the first thing which I would say that they need to understand that they're not alone. Everybody is going through it. So it's not just an individual sitting at home thinking about or afraid about losing a job or losing a business or not being able to reach out and market their services or whatever their capacity from home. So it's everybody is in the same boat at the moment. So I think if we start thinking that we are not the only ones who are suffering at the moment, rather everybody is, and as we keep on saying, at YPTG, I mean, you must wear the hat of a can-do attitude. I mean, you need to continuously remain positive. One thing which Neville and I have started in the continuation of the rainbow themes, we just started this theme of encouraging our neighbors in our community here in Rawalpindi, Bharia town, by asking my kids to develop banners and posters to display on our windows with the rainbow sign, encouraging that there's, always sunshine after heavy rainfall. So, I mean, I know my younger boy, 10 years old. He just said, he wrote, have a, have a big smile on your face. And that's a poster we have just, pasting on our windows, which people are the passers-by, they're reading, they're smiling. I look at their faces. It gives me the boost also. Just looking at my kids and sending all these positive messages. So, and we're encouraging others to place the same on their windows. Look at our neighbors' windows and read all those positive messages. So I guess such small activities, small contributions will itself make a difference.
Okay, so Moonis, we'll come to you after Neville, and I'd like you to share your secrets. Neville.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure it's a secret, because we all know how, and we all know what we should do. Ali mentioned smile. If you walk down the street, I mean, you're doing it already, Cameron. Yeah, it's infectious.
Yeah.
And you get the best out of other people, and the best out of yourself is just have a little smile. But like anything else, it's a universal language we're not taught.
Yeah.
And if we see something funny, we'll laugh, we'll smile. Someone said, will you tell your friend what they've just done wrong? I said, yeah, after I've stopped laughing. So I don't think there's any real secret to this. But the thing is, we're not taught it. There isn't an exam at the end of every year, like we do maths for 14 years. Every year we layer on more of a complex arena in maths. But to do that, we assume that we're communicating. So every year our communication skills get better. Or not, actually, because there's no exam at the end of the year for communication. There's no exam for empathy. There's no exam for listening or thinking. And although these sound really, really simple, Cameron, you know how difficult it is for people to think. And the flippant answer to your question is through experience. But does that say that a 14-year-old can't have the experience of a 54-year-old? And the answer is no, it doesn't actually, because it depends what you're doing to get that experience. Because you don't have to physically do it. You can watch other people. I did a program for 3 years called Leadership the Movie.
Okay.
And we ran a one-day course, very senior leadership program, a one-day course, which we called behavioural waste, as you know, Cameron, those two words we put together. And at the end of that one day, they had a task for the following month. Watch as many movies that they've enjoyed in the past and go and look at the movie from an educational standpoint, not entertainment, from an what are you learning from that movie that you could implement into your organization? And one very senior chief exec turned around and said, it's the cheapest leadership program I've ever been on, because I really enjoyed myself.
Wow.
You just gave me license and gave me permission to go onto Netflix and binge out, but look differently.
Yes. Moonis.
Yeah. So, this has been such an emotional roller coaster, and everybody who's hearing this, it's okay to be down and depressed and uncertain. It's okay to just go and lie in bed for a while. This is a whole emotional roller coaster. It's hard to be productive when you're under so much stress. And, at times you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? The whole world has changed, and, you're worried about a lot of things, and then you're elated by some exciting news you get, and then you're depressed again, and then you're hungry and you eat, and then you eat when you aren't hungry, and then you go to sleep, and this whole cycle starts, and our mind is getting so confused. How do you want me to feel? And
tell me how you want to feel. And give me a prescription.
Yeah, and I think that's okay, because we're all going through it. We're all trying to readjust and understand what this means. But one thing that's worked really well for me is, you know, if you can just understand that you're going to get through this, it's going to be okay. You know, get that stress and emotional layer off you, because your mind can't function. You can't think if you're stressed out about what's going to happen, and it's counterproductive. It's not helping you improve the situation. So understand that you will be okay. And with that mindset, knowing that you're going to land on your feet, then start to relax and start to think of options and opportunities. And you're still going to go through this emotional wave where you're going to be down and happy, but it's going to balance it. The best thing that's worked to me, I'll tell you, and I think this is a great opportunity for everybody, start exercising, start working out. We all tell ourselves, I don't have time. I'm in the office and then the kids and I get home. You have time now. That excuse is crossed off your list. You have time. Work out, exercise, eat healthy. Not only is it going to help you in case you get sick, which inshallah you won't, but exercising is the best way to get on top of that stress and to empower you and feel good. So I think exercise is just critical on top of everything else I've said.
Brilliant.
Moonis,
Brilliant.
if I could,
Let us,
Ali, just,
Karan bhai, if I may, we can engage the audience. I see there some regular callers. I'm very encouraging to see we have a few regular callers who are now back, and we have Mr. Ghazi. You have raised your hand. I understand that last week you were also here from Accenture. Mr. Ghazi, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself. Or let me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, Mr. Ghazi, welcome back, and please do ask your question.
Thank you. So this has been very, very interesting. Moonis is really a hero, you know, from building microchips at Intel to raising money from the likes of Reid Hoffman. You know, he should be celebrated more. Absolutely a privilege to be here. I had a question and a quick comment. My question was to Moonis specifically. You know, given the business that you're in, what are the specific labor market trends that you're seeing post COVID-19 in the markets, and you know, anything interesting that you've seen there? And the quick comment was also on what Moonis says about the fourth revolution in terms of digital. That's absolutely true. Knowledge is completely distributed. You know, YouTubes and Udacities of the world, you can go learn whatever you want. However, you know, a core component of artificial intelligence is that, you know, data and everything is centralized, and you have certain platforms that essentially become monopolies. And, you know, whether it's LinkedIn, they have a monopoly on, you know, who knows who, and it's the same for the Googles and the Facebooks of this world. So how do you see, you know, that part of the world when, you know, 10, 20 years down the line, these monopolies would essentially be complete superpowers? And a joke that, you know, comes to mind is that, you know, they said Bezos with Amazon, it's such a beast that he's, you know, in the Western world, he's the only man who is the richest man before he got divorced and after he got divorced. He was still the richest man in the world. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot the first part of your question.
What were the labor market trends that you've seen?
Okay, great. So there are a few early trends that I can tell you. One is, obviously, I don't need to say this, a slowdown in employment. Employers are not hiring as much. 2, unemployment, layoffs. 3, who is hiring? And I think this is probably the most valuable thing I can share with you, because we're also very interested to make sure we get sales in. And so we're looking at which sectors are still hiring and spending money. And by and large, the companies that are still hiring are tech companies. So we're finding that the slowdown has not hit the tech companies as hard as it's hit other organizations, like the restaurants, as an example, or the FMCGs. So this reinforces our thesis that we are going through an industrial wave, a revolution, this fourth industrial wave that we're going through. It's going to be dominated by the tech companies who are building the pipes, you know. And the next part of your question, which is very interesting, is what happens is that these platforms that start to aggregate and start to be the interconnects in this new ecosystem, in this new world, tend to get disproportionately large and become giants. And they have monopolies, you know, like your Amazons and your Googles and your Facebooks. And I think this is something that you should expect to see more of in Pakistan. We really haven't seen a lot of that here yet. And I think you're going to see more of it. But it's clear that organizations are now much more willing to interconnect with each other, to share their information and the data. We're already talking to a number of banks who are offloading key workflows onto our platform. And then we process it and we give them value back. So the value chains are now starting to interconnect. And you're going to be seeing certain platforms which are doing the interconnect, and those platforms are going to grow larger than the other players, but everybody is going to gain. So if you say, well, yes, there's going to be a monopoly, that kind of monopoly is a result of giving incremental value back to all of the players who are plugged into the ecosystem. So the net growth in value is tremendous. It's not just for the monopoly, it's for everybody who's interconnected, but that one platform, which can grow very fast because it has more inputs and outputs than anybody else, is going to grow disproportionately. It takes the place of the many fragmented platforms that were doing small pieces of that. So I think that's inevitable, but the net result is the value will increase for everybody when that happens.
The beauty of network effects. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And equally, as they get bigger, and let's say mission drift starts to sit in, it gives lots of opportunity for smaller organizations to fill the gaps.
Spot on.
So there is this huge collaboration opportunity for the monopolies, and it's interesting to see some of them that have worked very quickly to do that collaboration. Some people might call it outsource or whatever, but equally, as more and more opportunities arise, there's more more in the pot that others can tap onto. And Moonis, you're a classic example. You've gone into the fintech arena, and that, to me, being an accountant, I mean, it's a huge opportunity. It's mushroomed. And again, just on that one, coronavirus has done something for banking that all of the best advice in the world couldn't do. Now all the banks are moving to the cloud very rapidly. so that's one positive, I think.
And this cloud opportunity you're talking about, I mean, that needs to be spoken about. You know, this whole applications moving to the cloud, organizations like banks moving to the cloud for the first time. It's a great opportunity for the labor force. If you're trying to find out where to go next, well, cloud skills are going to be very, very strategic. We've seen organizations in this country, in Pakistan, who are very concerned about the data and making sure everything's within the office and locked doors, are now starting to move on to platforms that are online. And this is a behavioral shift we've seen in the West.
Massive.
It's actually happening now in Pakistan.
Yeah. And the whole, the cybersecurity arena just shoots out the door. Now, all of a sudden, you've been on lockdown in your office, where no one can take anything in, no one can take anything out, and emails are scanned on the way in. Now everyone's working at home, and all of a sudden, I need to have a virus checker on all of the PCs. I need a VPN line, which is secure. And all of these other issues. And of course, there are a lot of cloud suppliers out there that have been doing this for years, thinking at last, that suddenly someone has switched on a light somewhere, and now people are really getting into this fourth generation, this fourth industrial revolution, and it won't be too far before we hit the fifth, because I think we'll accelerate through the fourth very, very rapidly now.
Yeah, and as just an example, I can share with you, on my fintech platform, we had a business tool that SMEs and organizations could use to pay their employees, to make the payments to the vendors, to allow them to do the collections online via online transfers and credit cards and EasyPass agents. And this tool had a great appetite, but with the early movers. So we had to go and hunt for people who actually had a vision for what was going to happen in the future. It was a slow process. Last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been phenomenal how many inbound queries we've had from organizations who are saying, I need this now. So this is that whole wave, that inflection point happening.
Brilliant. And it just goes to show the types of jobs that are now mushrooming. 3 weeks ago, as you said, it was hard work trying to get the early movers, the real innovators into You know, the typical supply curve that sort of goes up like that and then comes down at the end. We're very much on this early arena. But now you've moved from the old days of Nintendo, you know. Nintendo 1 came out, and then all of a sudden, bingo, PS1, PS2, PS3 came in, and the curve just went astronomical. So I think you're seeing very, very similar moves here. And it's a great focus for any young person that's listening here, any 14, 15, 16-year-old now that isn't necessarily worried about anything apart from education. So now here's an opportunity. Focus on your future, focus on your future career, you know, and start really listening and honing into the skill set you're going to need for your job that's going to be like 5-10 years away. And as we've seen on the World Economic Forum, even they've shifted their approach from the top 10 skills you needed 5 years ago as opposed to the top 10 skills you need now. And if you look at them, they're all soft skills. Very few technical.
Yeah. All right, folks. So I'm just looking at the clock. So thank you very much for joining in. And just as a concluding remarks, before we dismiss out, allow me the liberty to play this quick video which Kamran Bhai, you had shared with me. We are all talking about lockdown and what is not being unlocked during this lockdown time. So there's an interesting 1-minute video which Kamran Bhai had shared. So if you guys allow me, I'll play this. And with that, I would also like to thank each one of you for sparing the time, and special thanks to Moonis for coming on this program. But before I play the video, any quick concluding remarks, Moonis, you would like to give before we dismiss out and play the video?
Yeah, you know, I think I'd just like to add that, you know, please don't feel helpless. Please don't feel that you're not in control, that you're not empowered. The trends are emerging very clearly. Stay on top of it, and you will be okay.
Very good. Very positive indeed. Thank you very much, Moonis. Thank you, Kamran Bhai. Thank you, Neville. And now I'm gonna play this video. I hope it plays well, considering the bandwidth issues we're having. So, but let me turn on my webcam, and I'm gonna share my screen, and let's see if it works. Where did it go? Hang on a second. Yeah, you guys can see it, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and this is exactly the main purpose of where did we go? We're still there. Okay, I'm gonna, there you go, stop my share. So folks, this was all about it for this week, and please stay tuned for the next week, same time, 5:15 p.m. Monday, and we're gonna get some new guests on this show. Once again, thank you very much for joining in. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you have logged in from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.